programs and 4-week classes at National University. Your future starts today at nu.edu.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard were once soulmates, lovers who took the vow of husband and wife. But their relationship was full of conflict and drama, which the jury has been hearing a lot about.
The language he used after particularly violent episodes was savage, monster, devil.
I was sort of not allowed to be right, not allowed to have a voice. So at a certain point, you start to slowly realize that you are in a relationship with your mother.
Johnny is suing Amber for defamation, claiming she told a malicious lie when she said she was a survivor of domestic abuse. Today, on the witness stand, Amber said there were witnesses to his physical violence.
And I just remember feeling so embarrassed. I felt so embarrassed that he could kick me to the ground in front of people.
We are live from Fairfax County, Virginia, as Amber Heard tells her side of the story, a story about love and violence. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Another really dramatic day inside the courtroom. We're going to go through a lot of what happened today. So much happened that it's going to take some time to kind of peel through everything that's happening. But at the end of the day, this is still a trial. This is still a trial, still a search for the truth. And what you've got going on in that courtroom are two completely different versions of what's going on. When Amber Heard is testifying, you're hearing the story of an angelic woman, an angel who was doing anything and everything to try to save her relationship. She wanted to save her man. She wanted to be with him. She was in love with him. And she took the abuse. She took the abuse, but kept trying to make it work. She did nothing wrong. She did everything right. Johnny Depp is a monster. Johnny Depp is like the worst human being. And you listen to her testimony, you wonder, why on earth would anyone stay in the same room with him, let alone be married to him? Or marry him, because all this stuff, a lot of it's happening before they even get married. But when Amber is testifying, he is an absolute monster. Don't like him. Who would like him? An angry, drug-addicted drunk who is just violent and demeaning. That's what she's describing inside the courtroom. Now, Johnny Depp's already testified as well. When he testified, things were a little different. It wasn't an angel versus a monster. It was like a charming man versus this controlling woman. She doesn't let me finish a sentence. I try to get away from her, and she won't let me get away, and she gets physical, and she instigates everything. And I know, and Johnny, yeah, I know I've got some problems with drugs, but it just puts me to sleep. There's no violence. I've never struck a woman. Never. Why would I do that? Why would I do that now as a 50-year-old man? Why would I choose now to become a wife beater? It's her. She's the one instigating all the problems and the violence in this household. And that violence drives me to take even more drugs and alcohol to just numb the pain. They're both talking about the same stuff, but it's completely different, which leads to only one possible conclusion here. Someone is lying. Somebody's not telling the truth. I started and I said, you know, a trial, always a search for the truth, but somebody's lying. And that's what the jury has to figure out. There's plenty of ways to do it, right? You look at the witnesses, do you believe them? You listen to their stories, you listen to the other witnesses, do they corroborate it? Is there physical evidence? Are there pictures? Are there videos? You know, is there something to back up your story? When you've got one story over here, another story over here, where is the truth in all of that? Well, right now it's Amber Heard's turn to tell her story and to testify, and she did today. And there was a lot of emotion on the witness stand today. And as this jury is trying to figure out who is lying, the question today inside that courtroom was Amber Heard crying on the stand today? Or was she lying on the stand today? And I think it is that simple, because the stories are very dramatic, they're very specific. And either you believe she is reliving this and going through what she endured and is crying on that witness stand, or she is just lying, not telling the truth. Well, the jurors will have to make that call. Obviously, people who are watching the trial are making that call as they're watching it. The jury doesn't get to talk about it until the end of the case. But we can talk about it tonight, and we will. So let me show you right now some of Amber Heard on the witness stand, emotional testimony. What do you think? Is she crying or is she lying?
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get through to him. I couldn't get up. I couldn't get up. And I don't know how that ended. I don't know how. I don't know what happened next. I don't understand this. The next thing I remember, I was bent over backwards on the bar, meaning my chest was up. I was staring at the blue lights, and my chest was on this, my back was on the countertops, and I thought he was punching me. I thought he was I'm sorry. I felt this pressure. On my pubic bone. He thought he was punching me. I just saw his arm. I could feel his arm moving, and it looked like he was punching me. But I could just feel this pressure. It was like it kept hitting him. It didn't feel pain. It was just a pressure on my pubic bone, and I don't know. I don't remember what I said. I just remember being really still, not wanting to move. I remember looking around the room. I remember looking at all the broken bottles, broken glass. And I remember that it's just not wanting to move because I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken.
In many respects, this is the story, right? This is the story. She's alleging a brutal sexual assault. And obviously, if the jury believes she's crying and telling the truth and reliving this horrific moment, Johnny loses. But if she's lying about it, what really was happening then? Let me bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joining us live from outside the courthouse in Fairfax, Virginia. This day was, again, we were saying it a lot during this trial, but unlike anything we've ever seen on Court TV. Let's talk about what she's describing there. And this is part of a series of attacks, or a really chaotic scene that she was describing today of this attack. This was down in Australia.
Yeah, this is about a month after they married in 2015. It's in March. He's there to shoot the Pirates of the Caribbean 5 movie, and it really was just an ill-fated, infamous trip to Australia. She alleges, Vinnie, that Johnny Depp, immediately when she arrived to Australia, took about 10 MDMA or ecstasy pills, and from then on out, it was complete chaos. She was held hostage for about 3 days. Her memory goes in and out according to her testimony, but she recalled several incidents over that time span where he brutally and violently beat her and sexually assaulted her with a liquor bottle. She became almost where she couldn't speak on the witness stand at times, emotional, trying to recount some of those times of what she remembered and the names that he called her. And there was one moment that really, as I sat in the courtroom, chills up my spine as she stared directly at Johnny Depp, who had his head down like that, and said to the jury what he was allegedly telling her while assaulting her. Let's watch.
Do you recall what Mr. Depp was saying to you when he had the bottle and was pushing it against your pubic bone?
He said that he kill me. He said, I'll kill you. He said it to me over and over again. He said, I'll kill you.
Right there, Vinnie, she's looking directly at her ex-husband, Johnny Depp, and she sustained that stare towards him for quite a long time, even after she stopped talking about him threatening to kill her, allegedly, one of a couple of times she testified to over the course of today's testimony. And the jurors, while still very stoic and nothing over, were taking occasional notes today. Some would just kind of turn in and listen to her. Some are wearing masks. It's hard to really gauge what they're thinking or reacting. But I did notice particularly a couple of them look more towards the direction of Johnny Depp today, maybe because he was kind of moving around a bit more than usual as she testified.
I mean, to me, that sequence of testimony really is what this whole thing is about. And I could see a juror making a decision in that moment. Am I believing her? Am I not believing her? And depending on which way you go with that, could be the way this entire case goes. Now, when the jury is out of the jury box, Amber and Johnny crossing paths at times today, because she's in the jury box, she's in the witness stand, and his table is right across. Describe for us what happened today.
Vinnie, it happened in the morning once, but it wasn't as bad. This afternoon when I'm in there and it's mid-afternoon recess, whoa, here it is. Okay, this is the moment we're showing. She's leaving the witness box, and of course, Johnny Depp has gotten up. You see his security detail walking over there, right there, maybe some eye contact. She immediately revolts. Her body revolts. She backs into our camera, our Court TV camera right there. You see behind her. It wobbles, and then she looks to the bailiff, who then guides her along outside the courtroom. Now, off camera right there, we kind of cut out when she's walking across the well of the courtroom. I'm watching her, and she's visibly shaking, physically shaking, where I could tell several feet away, of course, from the gallery, and we could hear her starting to sob. It was like, I said, I didn't think she was going to make it out of the courtroom before she had a complete breakdown. And once that door opened, I could hear her get louder, and they shut the door, of course, but she really did seem affected by about almost running into her ex-husband there, Johnny Depp, and then, of course, what she was just telling the jury, reliving, it really did seem to affect her, and she didn't know that the cameras were really on her as she was making her way out of that courtroom.
Right, and based upon the testimony today, this would be her going past the man she says sexually assaulted her as well. I mean, it's her ex-husband and all of that, but based upon today's testimony, I mean, you don't get moments like that often inside a courtroom. You just don't. Because if it's a criminal case, they are keeping people separated, at all times, making sure that nothing even close to that happens. Wow. All right. Amber also testified today about being on television after one of these incidents. Tell us a little bit more about that.
She did. Right, so this was an incident in December 2015, several months after Australia, and this is the incident that she said she really felt like she was going to die during this alleged assault between her and Johnny Depp, in which he, at their penthouse in downtown LA, was assaulting her to the point that the bed broke. He headbutted her. She had a busted lip, 2 black eyes, and a chunk of hair was pulled out of her scalp, according to some of these photos that the jury was shown this afternoon. And she also testified about having to make a choice on whether or not she would appear on the James Corden show the very next day. She had a booking, and she talked about working with her makeup team in which to cover her black eyes, her busted lip. She had to choose that bright red lipstick to cover that injury. And she also talked about less hairspray because it burned her scalp from the sores on her scalp. So we have pulled that clip from the Late Late Show with James Corden, her appearance. Let's watch.
In the movie, you play a ballerina. Did you study ballet? Could you already do it?
No, pretty much the opposite. I grew up, in Texas riding horses and...
Oh, really? Not a big ballet community out there in Texas?
No, not so much.
So, Vinnie, everyone can watch that and judge for themselves on whether or not they can tell that she has any injuries or if it was a miracle makeup job that covered everything. But it's just interesting to look at that clip now, knowing her story about what happened just hours before she made that television appearance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it could be pieces of evidence like that and questions like that the jury has that helps them figure out the truth in all this. Chanley Painter, we'll check back with you in a little bit. I want to bring in a special guest joining us by phone in Los Angeles, California. Senior editor for Deadline Hollywood, Dominic Patton, back with us. Dominic, thanks so much. Let me ask you the question that I'm asking right now. Based upon this testimony today, especially that Australian incident that was described by her, was she crying or was she lying on that witness stand? Many people were looking for tears that they said they didn't necessarily see today. What did you see?
Well, I saw it partially, Vinny, and thank you for having me back. Always appreciate it. What I partially saw is what I've said before when we've chatted, which is these are 2 actors on stage. These are 2 actors on the stand, and their professions shouldn't be decoupled from their relationship and the case that we're dealing with here. So I certainly saw a lot of that. But Amber Heard's emotional display, you'd have to be stone-hearted not to be moved by it on some level, but you'd also have to be very, I would say, woolly-minded to not recognize that you're also watching a presentation here. One that was very, very carefully orchestrated by her legal team, strategically so. And I will also say what was very important here for me, specifically watching this, is they're preemptive. They know that after the break of next week, because we should say the case goes dark next week because the judge has a pre-scheduled event to go to a conference. When they come back, very soon, Amber is going to be cross-examined. It is going to be brutal, as it was when Johnny Depp was cross-examined by the defense team. One of the things that her defense team is doing is they're planting the seeds of this. One of the accusations Johnny Depp has made since the beginning of launching this lawsuit in March 2019 is that Amber is not the victim of domestic abuse, despite what she said in that Washington Post op-ed. It's him, and he can prove it. She hit him, and she did this. And she talked today about in 2015, striking him, punching him. She talked to, and she said it was to defend her sister being thrown down a flight of stairs or knocked down a flight of stairs. She talked about fighting back. She talked about screaming and shouting. She talked about her own being ashamed of these things, as well as talking about repeated sexual assaults, physical, verbal, and emotional violence. So I think you're seeing a very telling turn here. The question that you posed, and it's such a smart one, which is, how will the jury interpret this?
Yeah, to me, today was the biggest day. That was the biggest moment so far because, you know, depending upon how you react to that moment, you could make your decision right then and there. Dominic Patton, we're a little short on time tonight. We have so much testimony to show, folks, but always appreciate it. Dominic Patton, senior editor, Deadline Hollywood. Check them out. They are breaking news left and right on this story. When we come back, folks, we're going to talk about two things: love and violence. That's what was described today. When we come back, we'll begin with the love side, the love story. Johnny and Amber. Was it true love? Was it mad love? Was it crazy love? Was it dangerous love? Our experts will take a look.
at joincalibrate.com.
She married us in the living room of his mother's house, Betty Sue, with our families together. My best friend, my mom, his mom. We ate food with the kids. They were there. And we had a wonderful evening.
Amber and Johnny were in love. And there were pieces of that came out today during the testimony. But I'm trying to understand this relationship because it's so volatile, yet there's love, there's violence before the marriage, all of that. Let me show you some of Amber Heard's testimony today here, talking about the proposal. Now remember, this proposal, again, taking place after a whole bunch of violence.
And it was really sweet. He got down on one knee and said, I want you to be my girl forever, my woman, my girl. I want you to be the rest of my life. Say yes to me. He said he wanted to spend every day. He promised me that every day when I woke up, that I would wake up and he would make me smile at least once. And that would be his goal. And, you know, I looked into his eyes and I saw my future, hope, you know, like blind hope, so in love. It was one of the most, I can't describe that kind of joy, you know. I thought, you know, if we were married, then this is real. This is real. This isn't a thing of, this isn't chaotic and this will change. You know, I had so much hope in that moment. And I just said to him over and over again, are you serious? Are you real? Are you serious? Are you sure? Because he didn't have a ring. So I thought, is this an impulse thing? You know, my experience, Johnny, could be very impulsive. And he said over and over again, be my woman forever. I want you to be my wife, my wife, my wife. I, of course, cried, and we had a wonderful evening.
Let me bring in my guests. They know about this stuff a lot better than I do in trying to analyze what's going on. In Atlanta, Georgia, trial attorney, family law attorney, Randy Kessler, he's right down there. From Los Angeles, California, psychology professor and America's relationship expert, Dr. Wendy Walsh is with us. She's right there. And also in Los Angeles, California, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and associate professor at Pepperdine University, Dr. Judy Ho, also with us right next to me here. Great to see you all. Thank you for joining us. I'm trying to understand the nature of this love affair. Dr. Judy Ho, what are your thoughts about Amber and Johnny?
Well, based on her testimony, Vinnie, it was very interesting. She mentioned this word chaos, that maybe there wasn't going to be chaos anymore. And we know that both her and Johnny very unfortunately came from abusive households. There was a lot of chaos for both of them as they were growing up. They grew up with volatile parents, physically abusive parents. And unfortunately, sometimes individuals, when they haven't really dealt fully with the trauma that they grew up with as adults, they are sometimes attracted to that same type of chaotic relationship or situation, sometimes without even consciously knowing it. But there was a part of Amber that thought, well, maybe this would be an end to the chaos. Maybe we'd finally have something that would feel stable. And unfortunately, this relationship was anything but that. And I think both of them were used to a certain way of interacting with people in their relationships and maybe had certain expectations and hopes, but every time they get crushed, they also don't necessarily say, this is the time to exit this relationship, because they don't have those healthy boundaries that were developed for people who perhaps grew up in more stable households to begin with.
Dr. Wendy Walsh, it's obvious to me there was chaos in the relationship, and you know, everyone has an opinion about who's, you know, the initial aggressor and all that. I'm trying to figure out, I want to start though with the love story here in these two. Like how and why would these two end up together? He's twice her age. There's all this. Is there a rush of adrenaline from some of the excitement of whatever this chaos is?
Well, when I look at his relationship history, he seemed to have a desire to completely merge with whoever was the object of his attention at that moment. With Jennifer Grey, he proposed to her within 2 weeks after meeting. With Winona Ryder, he tattooed her name on his body. There was this idea to merge and mesh and control, and I would think that maybe underneath was a deep-seated fear of abandonment. So if you go younger, Winona Ryder was only 17. Amber was in her early 20s. If you go younger, you immediately have power. If you're more famous, if you're richer, you can keep that person from leaving you. Because the underbelly of this, what you see as love on the surface, is actually this desire to keep someone enmeshed with them. Now, on Amber's side, you know, we've all seen on Netflix The Tinder Swindler and said, how did all those women get swindled by that guy? There's lots of research, and I'm sure Dr. Ho can support it because she's more of a neuroscientist than me, that when the brain is falling in love, there's a cocktail of neurochemicals that actually turn off your analytical brain. You're not making good decisions at that moment. And Johnny would take advantage of that by moving fairly quickly.
Randy Kessler, you come in at the end, right? When the love is gone, right? Because you're a family attorney, you handle a lot of divorces.
And at the end of the segment too, right?
And at the end of the segment as well. When you're with clients or the soon-to-be ex-spouses are in court or whatever, do they talk a lot about the love? Do they mention the good times, or after the split, is there this focus on just the negative, or is there ever like the reminiscing? Because I thought I saw some of that today on the witness stand, and I heard some from Johnny also.
They do. There's a lot of regret and remorse, and truthfully, it's a good tool for us to bring them back to that, because when they're fighting about money or about time with their children, if we can remind them and say, remember where you started, remember this was someone you loved, don't you want to bring some of those good feelings? You have some respect for this person, you committed to this person, and if we can get them thinking about those good times, we can solve a lot of the issues. People are not going to get their pound of flesh in a divorce court. What they can do is get peace and closure, and one way to do that is to focus on the fact that there are some good qualities on the other side of the table, in the other room, in the other side of the courtroom. So we don't often hear it from the other side. Sometimes we have to bring it up and remind them, but it's there and it's interesting to watch.
Absolutely. All right, everyone's staying. When we come back, we handled the love. Now to the violence in this relationship, because there seemingly was a whole lot of it. That's next.
Clean nose, healthy life.
And at some point, I remember maybe this was the shove that I was talking about, but at some point, Johnny and I are in a struggle in the living room, and he kind of like shoves me down on the sofa, and I get up and I'm trying to get him off of me, and it's just stronger than me. I don't know how else to describe it. And at some point, he just whacks me in the face. And I had not, at the time, been, I think that was the first time I was like, is this a broken nose? At the time, I was unsure what that feeling was, but I suspected I had a broken nose.
Amber Heard describing escalating violence and repeated violence at the hands of her ex, Johnny Depp. And there were a lot of instances, stories that she described. One of them was on that infamous plane trip from Boston to LA. They're going back to LA from 2 different movie sets for Johnny's daughter's birthday. And here she is describing the scene on that plane.
I remember moving more than once, and Johnny came to me each time, not the other way around. He sits down in front of me at one point, and because I'm not answering him, I was looking out of the window, and he slaps my face. And his friend is in our proximity. And it didn't hurt my face. It just felt embarrassed that he would do that to me in front of people. It was the first time that anything like that had happened in front of somebody. I walk away from him. My back is turned to him, and I feel this boot in my back. He just kicked me in the back. I fell to the floor. I caught myself on the floor, and I just felt like I was looking at the floor of the plane felt like a long time. And I thought to myself, I don't know what to do. I can't believe did he just kick me? No one said anything. No one did anything. It was like you could hear a pin drop on that plane.
Let's bring back in our guests. I want to get their take on all this. Still with us, we've got Dr. Judy Ho, we've got Randy Kessler, and Dr. Wendy Walsh. All right, Randy, you're up first. To me, this is significant because it's the first allegation of abuse in front of people.
Yeah, it's significant because there should be corroboration, right? We should have other witnesses. But, you know, this is such a unique situation. I'm sure people are thinking it's Johnny Depp. Maybe they didn't want to confront him because he pays their bills and he's so famous. It's a tough one. But, you know, she comes off as authentic. And, you know, if I'm on the jury, I'm thinking, what was she going through the last 2 weeks watching him get up there and say all these things, which she thinks were lies and she's testifying were lies? This is a he said, she said. And boy, this was some tough stuff to listen to. And if you believe her, you got to be devastated for her.
Dr. Wendy Walsh, there was a point made on this program last night by one of my guests, Eklund Mercy, and she pointed out, and I said, wow, yeah, we have talked about it. Abusers, and what she said is abusers often, because she's represented some, will isolate their victim. They will cut the victim off from friends and family. Johnny Depp did the exact opposite of that. I mean, he had her friends living in his penthouses. He invited the family over. Explain.
No. He won the love of her friends and family. He also love bombed them with gifts, so that since he had their confidence, he emotionally could isolate her by going to them later and saying, you know, Amber's mental health is not doing well. I think the whole world knows the term gaslighting now, and that is gaslighting, where he pretends like she's the crazy one, and he goes to her family and friends who he has also allied with love and gifts to get their attention. And then they're believing him in some way. Look, Vinnie, I said it from the beginning that he's going to lose this case. She would not have alluded to people witnessing this unless the team was prepared to put those witnesses on the stand. This is not a domestic violence case. This is not a divorce case. This is a defamation case. Did she lie? And we have photographs of bruises. This case should have taken 1 day instead of 3 weeks. It doesn't matter if she started it. It doesn't matter if she hit back. It doesn't matter if she antagonized him emotionally. None of that matters. Did he ever hit her? Then she's an abused woman, and she can say that in the Washington Post.
Dr. Judy Ho, and Wendy, it's more than 3 weeks. This is going to go like 6 weeks, I think, is the exact time. Believe it or not. Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Judy Ho, your thoughts about this incident? This is on a plane. This is in front of people.
Well, Vinny, unfortunately, when relationships get to be this chaotic and this abusive, it's not really just going to be behind closed doors all the time. When tension is high, emotions are high, people are just going to act the way that they're going to act, whether there's an audience or not. And I think that we've heard these accounts that perhaps there's mutual abuse going on. That's a very contested term in our community because people say, well, no, there's still a power dynamic here. Somebody is more in power. Mutual abuse is much more rare. So who was the one in power? Who was the coercive one? I think most people would say it's Johnny because he looks like the person with the most fame, more money, etc. But other people might say, no, it's Amber. Amber's the younger one. She's the new hot young thing. You know, there's a lot of different ways in which you could characterize who were really at fault in terms of all of this. I tend to think that there's two individuals here who were already hurt and burnt up from before, from all of their traumatic experiences. And I don't think either of them really dealt with it very well before getting into this relationship. And this is where we are. And you're right, this is not really about the abuse. It's more about the defamation as a legal issue, but people aren't thinking about that. People are seeing these two superstars, you know, Johnny being the bigger superstar and saying, what happened in this relationship? They're just gobbling it up and they're trying to learn this and apply it to their own relationships and the people around them.
And I hope no one has a relationship that, like this one. I mean, this is not healthy, no matter what you believe.
No.
Wow, Dr. Judy Ho, Randy Kessler, Dr. Wendy Walsh, thank you so much. Appreciate your valuable time tonight. We'll see you again really soon. When we come back, Chanley Painter will join us once again, and we'll take a look at some of the things that the jury didn't see. Next.
out here?
Since 2.
Yeah.
2 o'clock?
Yeah.
Been doing this every day?
Every day this week. I was here a couple weeks ago for about a week.
So what encouraged you to come out? Sit out here and wait for a wristband?
I guess just to stick on the right side.
And also to show Johnny support, that we believe him and that we're here for him.
Some of the fans and court watchers lining up to get those wristbands. Let's bring back in Chanley Painter, Court TV legal correspondent outside the courthouse. Tell us more about these fans. They're lining up overnight now to get into the courtroom.
Yeah, Vinny, they've been doing it really this entire trial, and as the trial rolls on and more people are wanting to show up and get wristbands, the earlier the fans are arriving, some even at 10:30 the night before, as you can see them camping out. And one of our producers, Tiffany Smith, got out there in the wee morning hours to meet some of these super fans and ask, what brought them out here and what it was like to wait in this line for so many hours. Let's watch.
We started coming out here 3 and 4 in the morning. Then we had to make it 2. Then we had to make it 1. Now it's getting so busy, 9 p.m. the day before to get a wristband.
So what do you think about the testimony that's come out so far?
On Johnny's side, it's fantastic. He's got an excellent case. He can win this. But as of today, with all the ridiculousness that came out, that more lies, it's going to take him a little time to fight that. But he can win. He's got a great case. He's got a great team.
Well, if you were seated on the jury,
yeah,
what would be your thoughts right now, just listening to the evidence?
I would obviously be swinging for Depp, Johnny Depp. To me, it's just obvious. Like, she's characteristically, like, the therapy, that, like, her diagnosis and everything, it matches up to her behaviors. And she seems like the instigator.
So how do you think the trial is going so far?
I don't know, because I'm biased, so it's hard for me to tell, but I kind of think it's leaning towards Johnny's side, but then again, maybe that's because he put on his witnesses first, so I don't know.
I definitely support Johnny 110%. There's not a doubt in my mind.
There's a little taste of those who come out so early in the morning, and Vinny, they receive these wristbands. It gets them inside the courtroom or an overflow courtroom, and they are here to stay. You remember Yvonne? She talked to you when you were out here, Vinny. She's still here almost every day and says hello to you every time I see her in the courtroom.
It's amazing. Such a difference. I was there with you week 1. Went around the corner to one of the cafes and people are like, what? Johnny Depp's in town, or there's a trial going on? Now the world knows, obviously, as we enter week 4 here. All right, what was the scene like for the departures today as Amber Heard and Johnny Depp left?
For the departures, well, I know I told you earlier in the week that it was complete chaos with people chasing down the SUV of Johnny Depp, and I thought someone might get hurt. Well, since that time, the courthouse deputies have really put in place extra security. So today, the biggest crowd so far lining up the street behind the courthouse to catch a glimpse of Johnny Depp, extra squad cars there, extra motorcycle officers around, and 24 extra deputies, Vinny, to make sure they stay on the sidewalk, no running at any vehicle, and of course guarding the gate in which the SUVs leave. So of course I was out there, and maybe you could even see me in that shot, maybe not, but of course there's Johnny Depp leaving. He's waving at the crowd. No one's chasing him. Much safer environment for everyone involved. There's the video. That's the video from my cell phone, and I mean, this crowd is yelling at the top of their lungs for Johnny Depp, and then of course for Amber Heard, there's some screams, very loud boos, Vinny, as she departed the courthouse this evening.
Unbelievable. Let's talk about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard reacting to each other inside the courtroom. What did you notice? What happened there?
Right, some very sometimes awkward dynamics, and juries pick up on this type of thing. And I noticed more jurors even today looking towards Johnny Depp as he reacted there in the chair. And this moment, of course, from earlier today, where it was a near miss. This was the mid-morning break. The mid-afternoon break is what we talked about earlier, which really seemed to affect Amber Heard as she backed into our camera and then, of course, almost ran out of the courtroom like she was going to have a breakdown. But that was the first one. So trying to avoid each other. Now, there's times when Amber Heard's on the stand, but like I told you, she will look towards Johnny Depp as she's talking about him. I haven't yet seen him really look up towards her, but yet to react or maybe laugh at something she says to show his disdain or disagreement. He'll talk to his attorney sitting next to him or pass a note. Today, for the first time, I witnessed him pass a note to Camille Vasquez, the attorney making objections, who will cross-examine Amber Heard when this trial does resume March 16th, Vinnie. And the jury, I did notice a couple of jurors today glancing their eyes over to Johnny Depp just to see how he was taking in what she was saying.
Yeah, when you take a look at that courtroom and the way it is situated and set up, it's very easy. I mean, Johnny Depp's on the side that's closest to the jury, right? And so it's easy for them to take a look at how he is reacting or not looking at her or smirking, smiling, whatever he's doing. They can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the plaintiff. The plaintiff sits closest to the jury box, and they have a great view of him. Of course, the witness stand where Amber is as well. And so they can just quickly kind of just dart their eyes over, and they can see what Johnny Depp may or may not be doing. There is an attorney that sits between him and the jury, but that shouldn't block too much of their view. And it's just such a tense dynamic inside this courtroom as you watch it unfold, because both sides clearly telling a different story, Vinnie.
Yeah, really. Is there a box of Kleenex on the witness stand? Because there were times she was very emotional. Is she grabbing tissues? What's going on there?
You can't see the box from where I was sitting, but I know based on other witnesses who've handled the tissue box, there's a tissue box there at some point. Even at one point, Johnny Depp, during his testimony, grabbed a tissue from the tissue box at the witness stand. He didn't wipe tears, but he grabbed it, I think, because he anticipated he may need it. And he's also, wiping his nose a lot at the counsel table, so sometimes people will think, oh, wait, is he crying? But no, he just had a runny nose today, Vinnie.
All right, Chanley Painter doing great work in the middle of it all in Fairfax County, Virginia, of all places. Hollywood is watching. Thanks so much, Chanley. When we come back, we'll bring in our think tank and talk about all the drama.
today.
He owned my pubic bone, and he thought he was punching me.
I had a knife in my pocket, and I just took the knife out and I said, "Here, cut me. Ultimately, you've taken everything. You want my blood? Take it."
We break it down with our think tank. Plus, tonight's 13th juror question: is this picture worth $100 million for Amber Heard? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Another dramatic day inside the courtroom. And you know, sometimes we talk about courtroom drama, but this is a different type of courtroom drama because we literally have dramatic actors who are suing one another, that are going against one another in this bitter, bitter battle in Fairfax County, Virginia. Johnny Depp's been acting for decades. Amber Heard, this is her life. This is what she does. It's what both of them do. So today, as Amber Heard is testifying, the conversation that a lot of people are having, and perhaps the conversation that the jury will have at some point when it's time to deliberate, is, you know, what did we watch on that witness stand? What were we seeing when Amber Heard was testifying? Were we seeing someone just telling us the truth, or was someone putting on a show for us? Was she acting? Same thing with Johnny Depp. Same thing. They're both very dramatic in dramatically different ways. But it's a big part of this case because it's rare. I mean, I've never seen witnesses quite like this. That's what makes them so compelling to watch, is that they are trained and professional performers. You know, it's not like they're you know, working in a cubicle all day and then get a subpoena and have to testify. They're used to people watching them. They're used to the spotlight. They're used to trying to convince people. You know, it'd be like putting me in a witness box, right? It'd be the same thing. I'd probably be more like Amber than Johnny, to be honest with you. I'd probably be way over the top in describing and explaining things, because that's kind of what I do here, over the top, right? So I want to show this to you. And we picked some bits and pieces of Amber Heard's testimony today, which was, you know, absolutely compelling from start to finish. But these were some of the more dramatical moments. And the question that I'm going to have tonight as we look at this is, you know, what are we seeing here, and how will the jury react to this, knowing that it's coming from a trained actor? Take a look.
I struggle to find the words to describe how painful this is. This is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through. So much. That is the love of my life.
I'm looking at it in his eyes, and I don't see him anymore. I don't see him anymore. It wasn't him. It was black. I've never been so scared in my life. It was black. I couldn't see him, and my head was bashing against the back of the bar, and I couldn't breathe. Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't. Please, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't know what happened next. I don't want to do this. I felt this pressure. He owned my pubic bone, and he thought he was punching me.
This came out in Ben's evidence because he didn't share it until this date
Objection, Your
until this
Honor.
trial.
Sustained.
And so I recognize it. And I just looked right at him, just looked right at his face, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose. Just right as I stood in front of him.
Powerful. What are we seeing? What is the jury seeing? Very unusual to have actor versus actor inside the courtroom. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. In Staten Island, New York, former prosecutor Joan Aluzzi. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, law professor at Emory University and Georgia Innocence Project board member Molly Palmer. Great to see everyone tonight. It was some day. We just showed you some big dramatic moments, Renee Hill. This is unusual in a courtroom. Actor versus actor. Where's the reality? Where does, you know, what are we watching? What did you see? What did you see, and what do you think the jury's seeing?
Well, Vinnie, we knew that this was coming, right? We knew that Amber's case was going to, be just as good as Johnny's case, right? In terms of throwing the accusations out there and getting her case out here. To me, I feel like she was really acting. I think that what I was seeing, I didn't see any tears coming down her face. It was overly, she was over dramatic, in my opinion. And maybe she was being truthful about certain things, but this is what the jury is going to have to determine, whether or not they believe the story that she's telling them, whether or not they believe the emotion that she's putting forward here. I just think that it was a bit much, and, maybe other people will see it differently.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and it's real. And you're telling me the truth of what you saw.
In my opinion, I saw, she looked like she was faking to me. She looked like she was really putting on, like she was really acting, that she was just, it was her moment to shine. And this was the act that she was putting on. And it's going to be interesting to see how she holds up on cross-examination.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We've got two segments. We've got two segments. That's next. All right, Joan Aluzzi. Okay. Joan, I know you have some experience with actors in a courtroom, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I have to say that even when someone's an actor, but they are recounting a very, very personally painful event, it's not necessarily their acting skills you're seeing, but really, really raw emotion. I have to say, unless she's making this up out of whole cloth, which seems difficult because she's giving like very detailed descriptions of what happened, I think it's a possibility she's leaving out her part in some of the uglier events when she sort of says, well, I don't remember what I said, or I don't remember what happened next, but then remembers very, very vivid details about other things. I think if you're Johnny Depp, you're sitting there and maybe at this moment, you're really second guessing why you brought this case. The other thing, if I could say, is that I love subtle litigation. And I have to say that I don't know if you picked it up or if the jury's picking it up, but she keeps interjecting the wealth of Johnny Depp. He gave me a huge diamond ring. He has his beautiful private island in the Bahamas, a private plane. He rented a huge mansion. And maybe it's a subtle hint to the jury that he doesn't need my money. He's far wealthier than I will ever be.
Interesting.
And it's subtle, but she keeps on sort of weaving it in to her descriptions of the good times and where they were and what they were doing.
Molly Palmer, what did you see today on that witness stand, and how do you think this jury of young men saw? What did they see today in the courtroom?
Well, first off, Vinnie, I totally agree that if you were on the witness stand, you'd totally be an Amber Heard.
Yeah, I admit it.
I do think that the level of drama and intensity at times did appear to be put on. But here's what I think the jury is going to do in this situation. They know that these are actors. We have Johnny's testimony and we have Amber's testimony. And I think what the jury is going to do is kind of look beyond their testimony on the stand. They're melodramatic. You know, they both chose very strange words. It seemed a little scripted, both of them at times. And they're going to look to the other witnesses, right? And what I think is problematic for Amber Heard, and what we, heard from her today on the stand, was that Johnny had all these enablers and that they witnessed all of this stuff, but they allowed him to do it. Well, we know that Keenan Wyatt testified in Johnny Depp's case in chief, and then he apparently was on this plane and watched Johnny kick her and didn't, just decides that he's gonna side with Johnny and not come forward on the stand and be truthful about it. I think that the jury knows that when it comes to two actors, don't consider either of them credible inherently and look to the surrounding witnesses and the surrounding circumstances. And that is where her story starts to fall apart.
Okay, Renee Hill, you gave a thumbs down to Amber Heard. Let's show everyone Johnny Depp again. So you get it. I mean, it's been a while. The flavor for Johnny Depp's drama in the courtroom.
I hate saying this, and I hate to have to admit this. But that was, I believe that was about the lowest point in my life. That was the lowest I'd ever felt as a human being. Because I had to say, please, please, may I have the meds? Because it's really kicking in, and she was adamant, no, it's not time, it's not time. So.
And we had about 4 days of that. Renee, going back to Johnny Depp, now that we've seen Amber Heard in the way that they portrayed themselves on the stand, what do you think of his performance?
His performance, in my opinion, was a little more believable. He was dramatic. He had the long pauses in between, and it was painful at times listening to him testify here because of the pauses that he would take and how long he would take to get to the actual answer that he was giving. He would just go a roundabout way into answering the question, but ultimately, I think he painted a better picture of himself. He humbled himself by indicating how badly, and how low it was for him to get to that point to beg someone. And that was just expressing what he was going through, having been addicted to the drugs and everything else that he was indulging in. So to me, at this particular point, in everyone's opinion right now, it seems as well, in the court of public opinion, Johnny is still winning. It's still on his side right now. And as I said before, Amber was going to have an uphill battle moving forward from what Johnny put on, but there's still a lot more to come.
There is.
We're still at the very beginning of Amber's case. So
Joan, what do you think of Johnny's, the way he testified versus the way that Amber Heard testified?
I think Johnny Depp is probably a more experienced, polished actor. A very, very poignant moment for anyone in any movie is not necessarily, the crying, but the silent pause before you can get the answer out. And so I don't find him any more credible than her, I must say. And you have to imagine the truth lies somewhere in between. But I saw this and I cannot believe this woman would be making all of this up out of completely whole cloth. And if she's not, they're both evildoers. They're both bad doers. And he has a drug addiction. You wonder, why did she stay? But she hints about why she stayed, right? Because she talks about her mother being being sympathetic about staying with an abuser, her father doing drugs with Johnny Depp. So maybe this lifestyle wasn't so vastly different from the lifestyle that she was raised in. And that's why it was difficult for her to just say, like most women you would hope would do after the first moment of violence, adios. And she just doesn't. So you wonder where that comes from.
Yeah,
But
there
if you
was
look at
one
Johnny
difference,
Depp-
though. One difference between the lifestyle growing up and the lifestyle with Johnny Depp. There was a cul-de-sac of mansions. There were 5 penthouses. There was a private island. Then the yacht that I think he had to sell, though. I think he sold the yacht to the Harry Potter lady. Is that who he sold it to? I think so. But so some people look at that when you were talking about the wealth. The more skeptical people are looking at the wealth and saying, well, maybe that is why she stayed with him, the wealth and the fame that came with it. Also, I mean, it also could be, you know, Molly, battered women. If you're truly a battered woman, sometimes it's tough to leave when you're in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Did you just roll your eyes?
True.
Did she roll her eyes?
All the time,
Wait,
Vinny. I'm
can
constantly
we
rolling my eyes
rewind
in
and
this
see if
little
she
box
actually...
down here. Yes, I'm constantly rolling my eyes at you, Vinny. But sure, battered women. Do I think that Amber Heard fits that archetype? No. And one thing that both Renee and Joan pointed out astutely is that Johnny seems a bit more able to admit his wrongdoings. He's struggled with addiction. He has these issues. She has a really hard time articulating anything that she did wrong. But we hear these recordings where the tone of her voice is different and she's screaming at him and saying, yeah, maybe I hit you, but I didn't hit that hard. And on the stand, she's totally different. That's where she has an issue. That is the problem with Amber Heard's testimony. Can women be a battered individual who's susceptible to staying in an abusive relationship? Sure. But could she also have borderline personality disorder and be making all of this up because that's what somebody with that kind of diagnosis would do? That's a possibility as well.
Yeah, and that, again, going back, that was a significant piece of Johnny Depp's case because they have to explain what Amber Heard is saying here, and they're going to go back to, well, she suffers from this borderline personality disorder, histrionic. Okay, Renee Hill wants to get to the cross-examination, right? So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about cross-examination. And you know, there are a lot of things that came out today. How is Johnny Depp's team going to approach it? Some of the tough stuff that they have to approach through cross-examination and the rest of this case. We'll talk about that when we return.
Thank you.
I remember moving more than once, and Johnny came to me each time, not the other way around. He sits down in front of me at one point, and because I'm not answering him, I was looking out of the window, and he slaps my face. And his friend is in our proximity. And it didn't hurt my face. It just felt embarrassed that he would do that to me in front of people.
Part of Amber Heard's testimony today. She's almost done, but not quite with direct examination. Then cross-examination will occur. Got some big news and some statements to read to you because this is quite interesting. We've got a statement from a spokesperson for Johnny Depp. Let me put it up on the screen. Ms. Heard did indeed deliver the performance of her life in her direct examination. While Ms. Heard's stories have continued to grow new and convenient details, Mr. Depp's recollections have remained exactly the same throughout the 6 painful years since her first allegations were made. His truth, the truth, is the same no matter the environment in which it has been presented. The upcoming cross-examination from Mr. Depp's team will be most telling and will certainly highlight the many fallacies Ms. Heard has now attempted to pass off as fact throughout her convoluted testimony. Them's is fighting words, folks. Now, let me read a statement from Amber Heard's spokesperson. If Mr. Depp was truly innocent, why has he repeatedly apologized to Ms. Heard and promised to put, quote, the monster away for good? One of Ms. Heard's disappointments is Mr. Depp's inability to distinguish fact from fiction. I don't even know how to say that. Somebody in my ear, tell me how I pronounce that. Malady. I needed that, thank you. A malady which appears to have spread to his legal team. That same team is so panicked, they are fighting tooth and nail to prevent compelling evidence and photos from being introduced. Small wonder Mr. Depp does not have the fortitude or courage to even look at Ms. Heard at all throughout the proceedings, as he could not in the UK trial, and instead he doodles and stickers. Wow. How about that? Let me bring in the think tank. Renee Hill, Jonah Luzzi, Molly Palmer. Wow. Wow. Johnny Depp's team is looking forward, chomping at the bit, Molly Palmer, for this cross-examination. Are you surprised? They seem to be puffing their chests out tonight.
Yeah, it's a bold move. Personally, I like it. And I think they are ready. I mean, you can watch. So we know that Camille Vasquez, the female on the team who's been objecting frequently, constantly, and having those objections sustained, is the one who's going to cross Amber, because those are the rules, right? If you're objecting, you're going to be the one to handle the witness. And she's on it. And the judge has just been siding with her every single time. And so I think they are ready. And there were a few moments you could even watch when certain things came up in the direct examination. For example, a reference to Kate Moss, where all of a sudden Johnny's legal team and Johnny are looking at each other, and they were really hoping that they were, it seemed as though they were hoping that Amber would get into this on direct because they have something for cross. So do I think they're ready? Yes. Is it bold to put out a statement like that? Certainly. But do I think that they're going to follow through and deliver the cross-examination that we're all waiting for? Oh, they will.
All right, Jonah Luzzi, and some fighting words from Amber Heard through the spokesperson as well, talking about, they're fighting tooth and nail to prevent compelling evidence and photos from being introduced. We do have the rules of evidence, right? Both sides fight tooth and nail to keep stuff out.
I have to say, Vinnie, I thought I understood the rules of evidence, and this judge is sustaining objections. In my view, she should not be. I don't think anybody in that courtroom has a clue about what hearsay is and what hearsay is not. She's abstaining objections that are rudimentary in testimony. Like, for example, I explained this to my therapist. You can say that you told somebody what happened. That's not hearsay. That's just an out of court. You know, it goes to the point that she is outcrying to someone. She's not getting into what she told the therapist, but that she told the therapist. To me, that is not impermissible hearsay. Moreover, what's interesting is they're having the young, attractive lawyer cross-examine the female, a young, attractive victim. You know, it's a bad look for a man to get up and be really, really tough to a female. So they're having, in my view, the young, attractive female cross-examine Amber Heard. I do disagree with my colleagues in that I don't like these out-of-court statements. I don't think they serve anyone. If I was the judge, I would have put an end to them, especially when a witness is on the stand, to actually preview with the public what they're going to say. They must think they're in trouble, or else they would not have put out that statement like, remember, we're going to show that this is all a lie. If they were so confident that she was doing poorly, they would not have done that.
And again, these statements, I think, are coming through like a PR person. So, because we know Amber Heard hired a new PR team. So I think the stuff's coming through the spokesperson for the person, not for the legal team, but this is the statements that have been released. Now, let's get to some of the things that they're going to have to deal with here. I want you to take a look, Renee Hill here, Amber Heard, talking about some text messages, and then you tell me how you attack this through cross-examination, if you can. Take a look.
So this is from Mr. Depp, right? Says it's a way, I've let it go too far, went too far. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
I always regret it when I jump, or worse, when you jump.
Well, the language he used after particularly violent episodes was savage, monster, devil. And so we ended up both calling his other side, the side of Johnny that would do and say unbelievably horrible things. It was very different from the other Johnny. That was, in my opinion, exact opposite. And this is typical of the apologies that I would get when he took it too far physically. I was encouraged because I thought it meant he understood that he could really hurt me. Sometimes I didn't think he understood how much he could hurt me physically, I mean. So after this, I had a visible bruise.
Okay, Renee, how are you going to handle that? I mean, apologies, the two Johnnies she's been describing. What's the attack on Cross for that?
Well, he has admitted in his own testimony that he would say things to her, and we've seen it in videos that have already been displayed during the case here in itself, right? So there are no admissions in this text message that he physically abused her in any way. And he's apologizing for his behavior, for him yelling at her, perhaps cursing at her, which we've seen already. So that's how they're going to attack it. This is nothing new. This is something that he has owned already, that yes, they have been verbally abusive to each other, but not to the extent where she is portraying that he's apologizing for being physically abusive to her. That hasn't been shown here. And that's what they're going to attack in their cross-examination.
Okay. Molly, take a listen. This is the recording made by Amber Heard on the airplane, that infamous flight from Boston to LA. If you hear someone howling like an animal, she says it's Johnny Depp. I think that was the wrong one. There is one with howling.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
You
I
heard the
it
howling.
today.
I would
Of
howl
course,
for you, but I'm not going
every
to.
second.
Yeah, how would you handle that recording of him howling? I mean, is there any attack you can make on Amber Heard for recording him howling?
Yes. So here's the issue. So she records apparently these selective instances. The howling that we hear that they played in one of their exhibits today, it is just howling, right? But this is the time where she's saying that he like kicked her on the plane and he was being physically violent to her. That's not what you can hear. You hear howling. It sounds like a drunk guy, you know, it just sounds like a drunk guy howling, you know? But I think the issue again is that Keenan Wyatt was on that plane and he already testified for Depp, and he came across as very credible, and he said that he was never physically violent. And in fact, she was the one who was sulking around on the plane and acting, you know, she was being very indignant to Keenan. And so that's the issue, is that, you know, she's also selectively recording some things, but when it comes to these most egregious instances that she's alleging, where are those photos? Where are those recordings? I think it's problematic with how she continues to talk about what she's documenting when it comes to what she has not documented.
All right. Jonah Luz, let me ask you, as we take a look here, there's a bunch of photos of Johnny that she has taken, you know, through their times together of him passed out. Is she vulnerable at all on cross-examination for taking these photos?
Well, I'm sure that she was trying to illustrate for him exactly how unattractive it was when he was high or drunk and passed out. One or two of the photos just seems like a guy relaxing and sleeping, but this particular photo that you have up now, Vinny, really does look like somebody who's kind of out of it and maybe under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And so in one sense, she's documenting what she's saying to be true. In the other sense, why was she taking these photos prior to this litigation? She must have been doing something to either be spiteful to him or to embarrass him or to show him how very unattractive his lifestyle had become. I'm just not completely on Johnny Depp's team. I'm just not.
You don't have to be.
I just don't.
No.
Yeah, I just don't believe that.
Have I ever told any guest what to say, what to think? No, I just want to hear it from you. That's why I bring you on.
No, I think I'm in the minority in terms of people who are giving.
If you go on Facebook, you're definitely on the minority. Definitely.
I know, but there's something about it that just rings true in terms, I can't believe he was never violent. I'm not buying it.
All right.
It may end up being a wash.
Well,
a wash.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
We'll talk about it. When we come back, though, we're going to show you more of what happened inside the courtroom today and tell you about another big trial we are tracking down in Florida. This woman is accused of dressing up like a clown to kill a woman and then marry her husband.
directly from Copperfit.
One of the security guards carried Johnny like a baby into the house. And I looked at that, and I mean, his boots were hanging over the security guard's arm, who had to negotiate getting through the doorway, carrying Johnny like this. And I watched this, his assistants and the other security guards shaking their head, you know, just shaking their head, acknowledging this is how bad it is. And I remember thinking, this has got to be it. Like, this has got to change. This is it. And he was understandably very, very sick for at least 2 days, is my recollection. And in that 2 days, I had a lot of conversations with this team. I won't say what they were, but I felt at that juncture very encouraged that everybody and myself were on the same page. And I felt encouraged that we were in a new chapter, that Johnny had finally hit rock bottom, and finally he felt like changing for good.
Amber Heard testifying today, explaining, and she had to do this quite often, explain why she stayed in the relationship, how she kept, from her perspective, getting renewed hope that Johnny was going to get better and that things would turn around. And I mean, there was so much alleged violence before the wedding even took place. I want to take a moment here to tell you about another great trial that we are tracking. This one was a cold case for a while, then it was solved. It's the killer clown trial out of Florida. A woman accused of dressing like a clown, killing another woman, and then marrying her husband. Take a look.
30 years ago, a person dressed as a clown, holding flowers and balloons, rang the doorbell at Marlene Warren's home. But when Marlene answered, the clown shot her to death.
It was one of the worst days of my life.
Advanced DNA testing led authorities to Sheila Keene Warren. The defendant ended up marrying the victim's husband.
She wanted to marry him. She had to get rid of his wife.
This is going to be a riveting case, pairing a classic lover's triangle with modern forensics.
It's like a Lifetime movie plot.
We're talking about 30 years ago. You know, memories fade, evidence fade.
They can take the lack of evidence and create reasonable doubt.
I have seen convictions in cases, even though there's no murder weapon or no body.
From my knowledge of the case, she's innocent.
I mean, this is an unreal case. All right now, trial date June 3rd, Florida versus Sheila Keene Warren, the killer clown trial. When we come back, time to hear from you, our 13th juror. I posted a picture up there, got your reaction to it. As we take a break, take a listen to some more testimony from Amber Heard today.
Get up, go to the closet, take off the pants that have just been ruined, and Johnny comes into the closet right after me and slams me up against the side of the closet. And I mean, just with clarity, while holding my neck, said he'd kill me if I ever spoke to him like that in front of his kids again. If I ever embarrass him, and he just shoved me and embarrassed. If I ever embarrass you, if you ever embarrass me again in front of my kids, kill you.
8.
How did you sustain that bruise, Amber?
I had thrown Johnny slapped me. I walked away from him, and that made it worse. We got into like a shouting match. And he kind of did this thing with his body where I could tell he was going to hit me again. I picked up I remember it kind of like a little pot, not a pot, but like a vase. And I remember I got away from him enough as he reels back. I threw it in his direction, and I actually managed to get away before he got me. He grabbed me by the arm, and he kind of just held me on the floor, screaming at me. I don't know how many times he hit me in the face, but I remember being on the floor of my apartment, and I remember thinking, how could this happen to me again?
So I posted that on social media and asked you the question, is that picture worth $100 million to Amber Heard? That's what the amount is of her counterclaim against Johnny Depp. 13th juror comment of the day coming from Julie tonight. She says, first of all, she said he was hitting her in the face the same time she got the bruise. I see no evidence on her face in this picture that she was hit in the face. That arm bruise ain't nothing. Molly Palmer, your thoughts about the photo of the bruise on the arm. Is this the corroboration that proves her case?
Julianne makes a good point. I mean, she does describe being hit in the face. And you know what we know about Johnny Depp? He's a man who loves his jewelry, in particular his rings. And here she is purposely documenting her injuries, and we don't see anything on the face. And also, does it look like somebody grabbing an arm or a different type of bruise? I side with Julianne on this. Those are two pretty important things that seem to be missing from this photograph.
Sonia tonight. It proves she has what appears to be a bruise. It does not prove how she got the bruise. Well, Renee Hill, that's what her testimony is, right? Her testimony is, that's how I got the bruise. Do you think the jury can put two and two together here? And if they believe it, it's game over, but will they believe it?
And that's the question. And just like Molly said, you know, it's everything else that she's actually testifying to, and then using this photograph to support her testimony, and it's not matching up. Where are the bruises on her face? If he's pummeling her face the way she wants you to believe, she should be documenting the bruises to her face that you would expect to see, and they're just not there.
Sue tonight, no. Wasn't she repeatedly hit in the face also? Where are those pictures? Why is this the best she has? Well, there were some more pictures today that she presented, not necessarily from this incident, but Joan Aluzzi, you know, she describes getting hit in the face and being pinned on the ground. What does that picture show you?
I don't know whether or not that picture is consistent with being grabbed on the arm, but I think it possibly could be. And the bruise seems like it's in some state of healing. So I don't know how long before after the event this photograph was taken. Remember, she only has to prove one instance where Johnny Depp was violent to her in an unprovoked fashion, and he doesn't have a case. And so I don't know if the jury is going to nullify completely her testimony, or are they going to come to the conclusion that these two deserved each other or didn't deserve each other, but were so toxic and dysfunctional that they shouldn't be allowed to bring this to the court to litigate?
Yeah, they could send them both home packing. They absolutely could. Mm-hmm. Daniel tonight, with the pictures and words he has spoken, I believe he is guilty. How about that, Molly? That's the first comment from a man.
Yeah,
a lot of men on this jury.
I know, and that's concerned me for Johnny Depp from day one. I think his team would have been better off by selecting a female jury, because I'm a firm believer that women are harder on women than men are on women. But, you know, it's not guilt, right? That's the other thing. This isn't a criminal trial, you know, where you know, they don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he hurt her. Joan's point is well taken. You know, all they have to show is that she's not lying when she says she's a survivor of domestic abuse and sexual violence. So if you have a juror like that viewer, it could be incredibly problematic for Depp's case. And ultimately, it's not going to take, you know, like you said, they could just decide this is all we're not going to find for either of them. Why are we even here? Neither side deserves money. And having a juror like that could be, you know, the deciding factor when it comes down to who's going to find for whom.
Nikki tonight, sole evidence of a bruise doesn't coincide with the rest of her stories. Where's some more videos and pictures? And Renee, this is something I think the jury's going to think about. You know, there are some pictures, there are some photos, but there's nothing of these incredible beatings. Like what happened down in Australia, the way she described it, you know, the way she said it, you would think that she would have ended up in the hospital from what happened.
Right, absolutely. And she has been documenting so much, right? She's been making these videos of what she wanted to show here. She's, you know, copied the text messages. She's made these recordings that he wasn't aware of. But where are the videos and the recordings of these beatings that she has described in her testimony? And that's what's not matching up. And I think the jurors will see that.
And Angela, tonight, the bruise is not in the shape of a hand. So I don't know, looks like a bumped into something kind of bruise, which is it's all possible. It's all fair game. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Renee Hill, Jonah Luzzi, Molly Palmer, fantastic job. We appreciate your time and your insight. We'll see you again real soon. All right, folks, when we come back, we have one more thing to take care of, and it's as important as what's happening inside that courtroom. So when you come back, I'm going to ask you for a favor.
Officially licensed everything.
Okay, folks, before we go tonight, I have something that I need you to help us with. There's a child who's missing. Yayla Fuller is her name. Here's her picture, just 12 years old. 12 years old is young, missing from Greensboro, North Carolina. If you see Yayla, please call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Greensboro Police Department. Phone number's right down there, folks. So take a close look at the photo. If you see her, let's see if we can get Yayla home where she belongs. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Vinnie Politan. As always, have a great night. Don't forget to hug the kids.
Johnny proposed in front of our families. He gave me this enormous diamond ring. I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. I got the sense that he thought I was sleeping with the director, and then it was with the actor I was filming with. My dad was addicted to the same thing Johnny was. My dad actually left with Johnny's security to go get more drugs. And he was standing at that desk, behind the desk, with the Manson blaring. And I found him and told him that I was gonna call